Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Welcome. Today, we're embarking on an absolutely astonishing 150 million year saga. We're looking at the ultimate survival story, the epic, totally mind-bending journey of the only dinosaurs to actually survive the apocalypse. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about birds. Now, if you've ever had a seagull swoop down and try to steal your chips at the beach, well, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I love this quote from paleontologist Steve Brusette. You can sense that inner velociraptor in a gull. Because honestly, that terrifying agility, the cunning, the sheer feistiness when it dive bombs you, that's not just some weird coincidence. It is a direct blood-level inheritance from their raptor ancestors. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the secret dinosaur uncovered, move on to learning to fly by accident, surviving the asteroid apocalypse, the age of giant birds, feathered apes, and finally wrap up with the future of dinosaurs. Starting with Section 1, the secret dinosaur uncovered. You see, calling a bird a dinosaur isn't just a fun little metaphor. It's a strict genealogical truth. And what's really fascinating is how modern developmental biology proves this without needing to dig up a single fossil. As a bird embryo grows inside its egg, it literally passes through dinosaur anatomical stages. Just a few days into development, a bird's pelvis looks exactly like the pelvis of a T-Rex before it eventually shifts into that familiar bird shape. Scientists can even tweak dormant genes in a chicken embryo to make it grow tiny mini T-Rex teeth. I mean, that ancient dinosaur DNA is deeply embedded in literally every bird you see outside your window. But to find the absolute physical origins, we have to look at places like the tactile, rain-swept Isle of Skye over in Scotland. Picture this. Paleontologists battling fierce winds, constant freezing rain, and shifting coastal tides just to prospect the 170-million-year-old rocks of ancient Jurassic lagoons. They're out there patiently searching for those absolutely crucial early raptor fossils that preceded true flying birds. It's kind of like panning for gold, right? Just endlessly searching for the exact moment evolution started to completely change the game. Which brings us to Section 2, learning to fly by accident. Okay, here is a mind-bending concept for you. Flight was not some grand, deliberate evolutionary master plan. It was basically a lucky physics accident. Let's walk through how this happened. Step 1. Dinosaurs evolved simple hair-like feathers purely for insulation, just some simple thermal fuzz to stay warm. Step 2. Over time, these feathers got longer, branching out into those stiff quill pens we recognize today. And thanks to fossilized pigment structures called melanosomes, we actually know they were incredibly colorful. Why? Well, because these early wings were essentially flamboyant advertising billboards meant to attract mates and intimidate rivals. But then, in Step 3, something magical happened. The bodies of these specific raptors started shrinking, but their colorful display wings kept getting bigger. Cross a certain threshold, and suddenly, as they ran and leaped, the laws of physics kicked in. They generated accidental aerodynamic lift. They literally didn't mean to fly, they just wanted to look good. And that accident brings us to the ultimate transitional creature, Archaeopteryx. Found in Germany and dating back 150 million years, this fossil is a literal freeze frame of evolution. It had hollow bones, big wings, and a wishbone, which are super classic bird features. But it still rocked raptor claws on its hands, a long bony tail, and a jaw completely full of sharp teeth. Now, Archaeopteryx and these early birds didn't just take over the sky right away. Not at all. They had to mount a really slow, tens of millions of years insurgency against the reigning champions, massive flying reptiles called pterodactyls, some of which had insane 8-foot wingspans. Moving on to Section 3, surviving the asteroid apocalypse. Picture the scene. T-Rexes are walking the Earth, massive pterosaurs are flying above, and then, out of nowhere, a 6-mile-wide asteroid violently slams into the planet. 75%. In a flash, 75% of all species on Earth were completely wiped out. The mighty T-Rex? Gone. The heavlet-armored Triceratops? Gone. Even those incumbent flying pterosaurs that had dominated the skies for millions of years? Totally erased. Because at the end of the day, evolution simply does not prepare you for a freak accident from space. So you're probably wondering, why did some birds survive when the big guys starved to death? Well, it all came down to the evolutionary hand of cards they happened to be holding when disaster struck. First off, they had a super fast growth rate. They could go from a tiny hatchling to a full adult in just a matter of weeks. Second, they had beaks instead of teeth, which allowed them to crack open tough seeds buried deep in the soil. And seeds are a food source that can last for years after all the plants die off. Third, having powered flight meant they could physically flee localized destruction and find better spots. And fourth, their small body size required vastly less food than, say, a multi-ton T-Rex. In a charred apocalyptic wasteland, being small and eating seeds is exactly how you survive. Section 4. The Age of Giant Birds. In the millions of years following that asteroid impact, birds explosively diversified. With the massive terrestrial predators completely out of the picture, some birds actually abandoned flight altogether to conquer those wide-open spaces on the ground and in the seas. Meet the Colossus penguins. Now, before you start picturing the cute, waddling little birds you see at the zoo, just erase that image entirely. We're talking about gorilla-sized, torpedo-fast apex predators. Millions of years before killer whales or modern sharks took over, these absolute behemoths dominated the post-asteroid oceans, using their massive, razor-sharp beaks to shear right through fish and squid. It's a terrifying, hyper-realistic picture of an ancient marine food chain. And hey, the terror definitely didn't stop in the water. Just listen to these names for a second. The terror birds and the demon ducks. They evoke a very specific, almost playful kind of horror, and for incredibly good reason. These were nightmarish behemoths standing up to 10 feet tall. Think about that, literally the height of a basketball hoop, and weighing hundreds of kilos. Down in South America, terror birds were the absolute apex meat eaters, sporting killer beaks that could easily crush bone. Meanwhile, over in the ancient rainforests of Australia, the massive demon ducks were top-tier plant eaters. In fact, these Australian birds survived for so long that early human ancestors actually crossed paths with them. We've literally found the charred eggshells of demon ducks sitting right there in early human campfires. Now, for the birds that decided to keep to the skies, the sheer scale they reached was just staggering. Enter Polygornis. This was a rule-breaking global hang glider boasting a jaw-dropping 20-foot wingspan and saw-blade jaws. For the longest time, biomechanical engineers swore up and down that a flying bird this massive totally defied the physical limits of flight, but the fossils proved them wrong. This incredible creature survived for roughly 60 million years by effectively becoming a giant living kite soaring lazily around the globe on the world's thermal winds. Section 5. Feathered apes and bird brains. So let's shift gears from sheer physical size to sheer intellect. We're zooming in on the internal anatomy of the 10,000 species of modern birds we see today, because honestly, it is high time we completely debunked the slanderous bird brain insult. To prove exactly how smart birds really are, researchers use this slightly macabre but brilliant brain soup method. First, they weigh a modern bird brain sample. Then, and here's where it gets crazy, they pulverize it with a mortar and pestle into a frothy liquid. They suspend the neurons perfectly evenly in this soup, dye the sample, and then count the extremely dense neurons under a microscope. And what this incredible process revealed is that birds like crows, ravens, and parrots possessed primate-level neuron counts, all crammed into those tiny little heads. They don't just use tools, they actively craft them. They literally plan for the future. What's really fascinating here is the historical divergence between us and them. Right after the asteroid hit, early mammals relied on a survival strategy of quickly bulking up their physical bodies to fill the gaps left by the big dinosaurs. But their brain growth seriously lagged behind. So for a while, mammals actually got temporarily dumber. But the birds, they did the exact opposite. They shrank physically to survive, but they kept their massive, incredibly dense neuron counts. So for tens of millions of years following the apocalypse, birds vastly outpaced mammals intellectually. They truly became our planet's highly intelligent, feathered apes. And finally, Section 6, the future of dinosaurs. We've traced their epic survival through giant asteroid impacts and massive global shifts, but today, these ancient champions are facing a brand new test. The rapid loss of habitats and dramatically shifting climates are challenging these ultimate survivors all over again. To really grasp the true scale of their journey, let's ground this whole 150 million year epic in a really beautiful, intimate reality. Meet the goldcrest. It's Europe's smallest bird. It's about the size of a golf ball and weighs as much as a single grape. You might even see it flitting around a bush outside your kitchen window right now. But make absolutely no mistake, this tiny, fragile-looking creature is the direct, living descendant of the fearsome velociraptor. The magnificent, true dinosaurs didn't completely die out. They are still all around us, raising their chicks right in our own backyards. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Birds have already survived the absolute worst day in Earth's entire history, and their evolutionary flexibility is practically unmatched. As our climate alters the world once again, what new giant, bizarre, or hyper-intelligent dinosaurs will today's pigeon or crow evolve into next? The next time you look out your window, take a moment to be truly awestruck by the feathered survivors looking right back at you. Thanks for joining me on This Explainer, and keep your eyes on the skies.